Okay, I'd like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we are gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the City Infrastructure Committee meeting of 17th of May 2022. I declare this meeting open at 11:23. I'd like to advise attendees of the room that this meeting is being webcasted and audio recorded. I remind attendees to take necessary safety precautions. So do any councillors have a leave of absence to declare, noting that Councillor Lane is in that boat? No others? Okay, is there a mover for this motion for Councillor Lane to have a leave of absence? Councillor Murphy is the mover. Councillor Wilcox has seconded the motion. I now open the floor to vote. All of those in favour, please raise your hand. That's been carried unanimously. Councillor Batten, was that a hand up? Yep. Nice. Okay, thank you for that. That has been carried. I now refer to item 4.1. Can the Road Infrastructure Delivery Manager, Mr. Darryl Riley, please enter the discussions? But before we open discussions on this item, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to declare? Councillor Karansky.
Forgive me, Mr. Chair, I don't have a conflict of interest to declare, but I just wanted to point out that I'm unable to join you today in person as I'm a close contact to a COVID case today, so that's why I'm joining you online. I apologise for any inconvenience that might cause.
Can you just repeat that to the meeting?
Sorry?
Just let them know what she said.
So Councillor Karansky said that she's been a close contact for COVID, so she is unable to join us in the meeting, and that has been noted. Thank you. Okay, so there's no conflict of interest, so Mr. Riley, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report on the agenda today is our quarterly report for the end of the third quarter on our capital delivery for roads and water infrastructure. A lot of the information is highlighted within the report. We do have a quick presentation which we will run through. Certainly if councillors have any questions in regards to projects as we're putting them up, or questions in regards to some of the information, please feel free to ask those on the way through. I'm sure most of you have met Simon Malouf previously, who heads up our program in regards to infrastructure delivery within the branch, and he will run through that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, councillors. The third quarter of this financial year certainly threw quite a few challenges at us, so we really want to make sure we cover those off in today's presentation. On the whole, it was still showing, I guess, a quarter where we delivered in line with, I guess, what our original expectations were back at the start of the financial year. Certainly getting good delivery across rehabilitation functions and capital delivery functions, and delivery in line with target expenditure levels. However, it is worth noting that we, just with the way that procurements had run, we had actually expected to be ahead of that point at the end of the quarter. But as we'll sort of discuss shortly, certainly some of the impacts of the February and March wet weather events did play a bit of havoc with the amount of construction that was able to be completed during that quarter. On this slide, there's, again, just general information, but again, a broad range of projects and funding sources have been addressed throughout the quarter, and all of the delivery norms with relation to delivery by Council's day labour workforce at RCM and the contract construction team in RID are all in their normal proportions. Onto the delivery impacts that we have experienced during this quarter. We obviously did have the flood event February and March, Now that's led to some quite significant, delays on the projects that we had in delivery. Across 9 contracts that we had, there was a total of 116 days lost production on those projects, which equated on average to around about 2 weeks. But that, coupled with some lost time on RCM projects as well, probably related to nearly $6.5 million that would have been delivered in that quarter being missed. We've certainly got a lot of work on at the moment, and any delays with wet weather are seeing some notable reductions in expenditure. Flowing on from those events, and on top of an already hot construction market in southeast Queensland, asphalt crews have been in extreme demand across the area. And for contracts that we have had awarded, we have had delays in actually getting crews out of contractors as they resource flood recovery efforts, as well as a very active civil construction market over the quarter. So just in not having crews available for awarded contracts, we probably lost nearly $2 million of expenditure across the quarter as well. And the last point on this slide relates to, during the same period that the flood was happening, we've seen, a market price shock in fuel and oil during that period. Now that's got a very significant effect on construction costs, and in that period, a number of key contracts that were about to be awarded, were unable to be awarded as contractors were not able to honour their pricing that they had submitted previously because of the dramatic increase in costs that they would be expected moving forward, and certainly with no certainty as to when that would abate. We had to renegotiate a number of key contracts, just 3 contracts alone, in Chambers Flat Road, Kelly Street Master Drainage and Cowper Avenue. Probably saw nearly $3.5 million disappear, delayed award for those contracts. That didn't have so much of an effect on the Q3 performance, but certainly that will be expenditure that we won't now see in the fourth quarter of the year, as those contracts have now been delayed to the point that it will affect our delivery within the financial year. Happy to, through you, Mr. Chair, Division 1 Councillor had a question.
So thank you. I'll now open the floor to councillors for discussion. So I've got Councillor Murphy, Councillor Bradley. Oh, sorry.
Apologies. Still got more presentation, but
okay.
Happy to take questions on the way through if councillors want to raise
questions till the end. So, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right. No worries. Now, they were probably key issues that have emerged this quarter. That's on top of, some already abnormal circumstances that we have been dealing with on an ongoing basis. Certainly the supply chain issues that we're seeing with permanent materials such as precast pipe products, deck units for bridges, and even more broadly quarry materials, steel. We're still experiencing a lot of supply chain issues through our principal contractors, unable to get the materials when they need them. Biggest one is still precast pipes. Some pipe sizes are still at nearly 6 months lead time. We are continuing to mitigate those delays as much as possible through early procurement of those materials and novating contracts to our principal contractors once the construction works are awarded, but it still remains a risk in our delivery. We certainly saw in Q3 some notable impacts from COVID that we hadn't had previously when the borders reopened just prior to Christmas. Certainly by the time January came around, we started to see construction crews having to be shut down. In general, our construction contractors did an excellent job in actually maintaining crew availability through bringing in additional resources from other projects to keep projects moving. But one of the things that ended up affecting a significant number of shifts was traffic control, where traffic controllers were assigned to a project from a traffic control company working for the principal contractors, and at last minute had to be go into isolation, and the construction shift had to be delayed due to the inavailability of traffic control. And again, through industry being quite tight at the moment, traffic control is already a very tight resource. We also saw a much larger increase in the loss of council staff at various times. That has come in waves, but I guess where it starts to play a little bit of havoc is we have been struggling with resources for some time now. We are down on our overall numbers, so losing further staff to extended periods of illness is creating notable resourcing issues. Main effect that has been felt is we've generally kept construction under supervision by people picking up workloads, but where we've probably felt it the most is probably some loss of time in our forward procurement program. So projects that we were in procurement didn't get the same level of attention as that they would have had if we had I guess, all available resourcing on deck. And that has continued right through from January right through till now. We are sort of still seeing an upswing, although in the overall numbers being experienced on a daily basis, and the branch continues to go through waves of I guess staff being affected by this. At the moment, we're in a particularly bad period of that, where around about 1/3 of the construction supervision team has been out of action at the same time. And across the branch, we're typically seeing levels of 10 to 15% of the branch at any one point in time being out of action with COVID. Although I must say, staff are showing tremendous spirit and working from home and continuing to do their job until they're really unable to because of the severity of their illness. So certainly appreciate the affected staff's efforts to keep things moving even when they are at home for some of those periods. I mentioned the availability of resources. We certainly through the second quarter of the year, some of our construction supervision resourcing, particularly in our site engineers and senior project engineers, we saw overall resourcing levels dip to around about 30% of what our target resourcing was. That certainly stretched staff, and again, staff rallied and covered off on those low staffing periods tremendously well. Through Q3, we have had success in getting new people in the door, but we have also still seen some staff leaving the team. I think in the quarter we managed to get 4 new engineers, but lost 2, so that at least pegged back a little bit of ground. Overall across the branch, there's still I think 6 engineering positions that are still vacant. We still continue to recruit for those positions, but that again is blunting our progress a little bit on some of our forward procurements. Okay. That said, in looking at the effects that we have felt through Q3 with some lost productivity or notable lost productivity over and above what could have reasonably been forecast, we have had to revise down our end of year figure. Originally, we were targeting $106 or so million for the year. We still think $94 million is a reasonable target, although I do have to qualify that that was at the time of preparing this report. We weren't expecting to lose a significant amount of time through May. We're really getting to the time of year where significant wet weather is unseasonal. and we lost a lot of time last week. We looking forward. There's potential for more lost time this week and potentially going into next week. So we have the contracts awarded. The crews are there to go, but it certainly is starting to have an effect on our bottom line for the year, with the sheer quantum of weather over and above what could reasonably have been expected. There's still a tremendous body of work being undertaken in the project pipeline, project development. There's over $500 million that are currently being progressed in project development. This is predominantly on a major PIA and PDA trunk infrastructure. There's a lot of that has flowed through to detailed design now, and there's over $300 million in detailed designs currently being undertaken. In the quarter, at the end of these numbers are at the end of the quarter, and we still had $76 million of pre-construction contracts, so works that we're preparing and are going to market with, or assessing procurements for award. And of all the active contracts and projects that we currently have, there is still $36 million of 35, sorry, my eyes are not doing me any favours, $35 million of remaining construction left in those projects. I do note that in the month of April, more than $50 million of contracts were awarded, taking our current work in hand for construction projects over $80 million, and also during April, we've had a significant project in Loganley Road move from the detailed design phase into pre-construction, giving still 75 odd million dollars worth of projects that are currently in procurement, ready to be rolled out in the coming financial year. Yeah. Moving through, the remainder of the report is really just updating on progress of projects. So I'm happy to take this section as read. Certainly these projects are all the ones that have certainly experienced delays through the wet weather period. Some of those, which are, well, quite a lot of those, flow over into the new financial year, hence the impact on our final delivery. We've certainly seen some of these projects, coming to a close within Q4, which will be fantastic. Particularly the Albert Street, Station Road, Church Road intersections. That project is about to close up, as is the Browns Plains Scrubby Creek intersection, which is tremendous to see those projects, and also the Browns Plains Grand Plaza culvert rehabilitation project that we've been progressing. That should be finishing up in this quarter quite soon. Yeah, if we're happy to take any questions now without going through the full presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'll now open the floor to councillors for discussion. So I had Councillor Murphy and Councillor Bradley with questions. Are there any more? No, that's good. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wonderful job on your chairing today. Thank you, Simon, for your report. And Daryl, just a question and a bit of a statement. I have no doubts that you've had issues with the work with the flooding, rain, COVID and supply issues. But we have two major projects in Division 12, that's the Kelly Street and the Kelper Avenue in Eagleby. There's a couple of major stakeholders in that precinct. One is the Eagleby Community Centre on Kelper Avenue, and then the Eagleby Giants that are on Bishop Street that are affected by this drainage. We have been working with your team and Lars's team for the Eagleby Community Hall. There's a major renovation going to happen on that, and that's in the progress. I just hope that these delays don't impact that renovation as well. I hope that you've been dealing with the stakeholders there. And then with the Eagleby Giants, have you had any communication with them, because this is their football season as well? you will be impacting their field. I know that they are under negotiations with Bill Norris to play there, but the flood has wiped out their field yet again with the recent weather. So just wanted to know whether you're keeping up with the stakeholders that are involved in that area.
Through you, Mr Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor. Throughout the project, yes, the project team has been liaising with those stakeholders. Certainly, we are still trying to tie down a construction commencement with the successful contractor. They're having resourcing issues, so the contractor is, we will have to advise again when that project is expected to start. Once we have that information, we will do negotiation of any agreements that have been made and working in with those stakeholders to make sure that we get the project done without causing undue disruption.
Thank you, Simon. Would you be able to keep me up to date with that as well? That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the Chair. Thank you, Mr Malouf, for a very detailed presentation. And you highlighted something which is impacting the construction, being costs and etc. and COVID, flow on. I suppose without going into detail and being mindful of confidentiality, I just want to make sure that what you have been talking about is captured in the budget that we've been discussing. Yes.
Through you, Mr Chair. Certainly we took the opportunity, I think last week or the week before, to have another look at our detailed forward program, and we did revise our forecast delivery figures for next year to allow additional contingency to just try and deal with some of the unknowns that we certainly are dealing with at the moment. So that number has been revised down from where we originally had expected it to be.
Thank you. I'm just mindful that budget discussions are confidential, but that bit really concerns me because it's not only our council, it's just everywhere. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilcox, you had questions?
Thank you very much. Just in relation to page 10, Scott Lane Culvert Replacement Project, just with the recent rain again, unfortunately we can't control the weather, so just wondering if we have another update, because it does say May, but I haven't had an update on how the flooding went in this one, because I do know that Greenbank Road probably went under for about a day, and Stony Camp did go under, so just wondering how it is chugging along with this one again with the rain.
Through you, Mr Chair. Yeah, certainly an unfortunate time to catch the rain on that project. It is all done by the, I guess, the final seal on the road. So that's something that can't be done when the pavement is over wet. So we, without understanding exactly when we're going to see the end of this wet weather, the team remains optimistic that we will get the project finished in the month of June. But we are certainly needing some time. Once we need some blue skies to actually get that pavement to dry back a little bit, and before we can actually seal it. So, and then I'd just flagging for completeness. Certainly, undertaking sealing at this time of year in lower temperatures can also be problematic. It's fortunate that it's not a huge area, so starting a bit later in the day, we should still be able to get it, but if we get particularly cold weather, it may affect that as well. So,
awesome. If I can ask, if I get comms around it, pushing it out to June, and then that way I can put it up on my socials, that would be great. And just very quickly as well, in regards to page 22, Middle Road, Teviot Road intersection interim upgrade, do we have, I know this is coming, which is awesome, do we have a construction commencement date as yet?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are still negotiating that with the contractor. Again, the contractor is having a lot of difficulty getting crews to be able to undertake the work, so we are still awaiting their final position on when they can actually start that project. There had been some prior indications given by the successful contractor, and they haven't been successful in meeting those prior indications. They just cannot get their crews together for that. So we hope to be able to provide that update probably in the next week as we finalise the negotiation of their commencement for that project.
Thank you. I'm crossing my fingers that Scott Lane is finished and then this one can start concurrently. And just to confirm, is that project, is the Middle Road intersection project, is that night works? It's not going to be scheduled through the day?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will need to come back to you on that. I believe it is a combination, but certainly trying to do the high disruption works during night time is my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to bog down the committee with divisional matters, so can you give me an email about when Gilmore Road is going to be finished? Because I'm getting pinged about it on social media.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Are there any more questions? There being none, there's a motion in front of us. I'd like to ask for a mover, Councillor Bradley. Are there any seconders? Councillor Murphy. Anyone like to speak to the motion? No? So those in favour of the motion, raise your hand, please. That motion's been carried unanimously, including Councillor Kransky on the board, sorry. And yeah, it's been carried. So that marks the end of the road infrastructure delivery manager's reports. Is there any general business? There being none, I'll move on to the next item. Thank you, Mr. Riley. So that completes the agendas for today. Does anyone have any GB for the Director of Road and Water Infrastructure?
All for water, so I could have Mike.
Yeah, or water? No. So there being none, I declare the City Infrastructure Committee meeting of 17th of May 2022 concluded at 11:50. Thank you.